Hello, everyone. Oh, there we go. My name is Jim Wendler. I'm the author and creator of 531, and welcome to Wendler Friday with Wendler. There we go. Just welcome to Wendler. That's very narcissistic. Anyway, hope everyone's had a great week. We had a very good week of training. Did some kind of different stuff this week, but we got the prowler. The weather has been somewhat cooperating. We ran on Wednesday, and there was like 50-mile-an-hour gusts. It was crazy. Obviously, we run all the time, but it was just funny watching those kids run against the wind. Anyway, as always, if you have a question, ask so in the chat to the side of your screen there. If you're watching this on YouTube, not live, you can always ask a question in the comment section, and I'll do my best to generally answer it. Obviously, you can always catch a lot of these little clips in the YouTube shorts. We have a guy that does that. He does an amazing job, an absolutely amazing job. So here we go. Let's do this. We got a lot of questions already. So here we go. The best boy says, oh boy, I'm about to become a father. Ooh, congratulations, best boy. I assume this is your first, obviously, about to become a father. Do you have any tips on how to keep the training up with a newborn in the house? Well, there's two things I can tell you. Is one, make sure it's a priority. And as what you're going to notice over the years is obviously you're going to have a family, you're going to have your work, and that requires a ton of time. And so a lot of the stuff that maybe was a priority down the list is going to have to be taken out of your life. And if you want training to become a priority, you're going to have to make it. And you're probably a lot of times going to have to stop doing other things. Doesn't mean you have to, never read a book or anything like that, but you're going to have to manage your time. So one, make it a priority. Two, manage your time. Number three, I highly recommend reading the article I wrote called Training for Busy and Inconsistent Men. I think that's absolutely perfect for your situation. I think it's perfect for a lot of people's situation, whether if they're not just a new father, but any father who's got a full-time job and has got a lot of shit going on. So I recommend that. The other thing is, best boy, is you are going to, I don't know how I'm going to say this. My wife and I had a very clear plan of how we divvied up the things that we do. And I'm not saying that's the best for everyone, but, or what we did was the best for everyone, but you're going to, I've seen this not just with myself, but other people too, is you're going to see real quick who you are when times are stressful. And I don't mean a newborn, because if I'm going to be honest, yes, you may lose some sleep, but that's really the least stressful part of being a father or being a parent, is as they get older. And so you're going to make sure that you are a better person than when you came into that marriage, because I've seen a lot of people, both males, both moms and dads, turn out as soon as all this stress comes on, they end up being a completely different person, and they end up wilting under the amount of stress and shit, and they become horrible people. So don't become a horrible person, be a better person. I've seen a lot of, just from my perspective, I've seen a lot of wives really turn out to be completely different people after they have kids, and not in a good way. So just check yourself and make sure you're taking care of business. And the other thing is, you're not the mom, you're the dad. Two very different ways of raising kids. That's one of the best things I ever learned. Is I love hugging my kid. I give my kid kisses and stuff, but my wife is the one who's always, she's the mom. She's much more nurturing than I am. Okay. She can be tough with him too, but just don't take your parenting tips on moms. Take your parenting tips from dads. I wish more people would understand that. Don't beat your kid, but make sure you have a level of discipline, and then you be the model of discipline too. And that's not just, training, that's everything. So, and that's part of that is time management. All right. And honestly, dude, I'll be honest, time management is pretty easy if you keep the priorities, and you don't spend time going online. Don't spend too much time on your phone, all that other shit. It makes a big difference. It adds up. All right, Taylor Ham. Says, hey, Jim, a while back, I committed to the triumvirate due to not being able to stick to anything consistently. Good. Well, you committed and they're consistent. You learned a valuable lesson. It worked great. Now I have a big construction job, but it's finally local. So for the next 12 weeks, I'll be able to train consistently. Wow, 3 days a week. Well, that's good. I wanted a challenge, so I chose building a monolith. Woo! My family bought a cow, so I have plenty of beef. So no real question on it. But he says, does Taylor, I wanted to say I appreciate you doing these things and helping us all out. Training may seem unimportant or a waste of time to some of my family. Woo, boy. But to me, it's more than just about getting jacked. It's like therapy. You're exactly right. Mentally and physically strong. You're very correct. And having someone like you to help navigate the ups and downs is priceless. I cannot express my thanks in cash. You don't have to. But thank you for all you do. Taylor, that's very nice. I really appreciate that. One of the things, if anyone wants to get into this business or kind of do what I do or something like it, there's a couple things that you have to understand. One, you're going to have to do a lot of stuff for free. And that's just the way it goes. I would probably say in the world of the training world, I am fairly accomplished and I still do a boatload of shit for free. Boatloads of stuff. And I don't do it to martyr myself. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. And I think it's important for what I do with my free time to give back to the community. However, it's always nice to hear these things because sometimes you just feel like you're just getting wrung dry. And I'm not complaining, like, listen, but the people have a lot worse off than I am. I'm just saying I really appreciate that, and it's nice to hear. All right. I can tell you, one of the things, there's a kid on the football team, and, he went through lots of horrible ups and downs, injuries that were just brutal. He ended up playing his entire senior year, absolutely kicking ass. He was, I believe, all conference. And his parents came up to me, and I'm not very, it's not like I'm unfriendly, but I kind of keep my distance. And they came up to me and thanked me, and it was one of the best things I've ever heard. And to be honest, about a year prior to his senior year, 2 years, they asked me something. I was brutally honest, and I just said what I thought. And I think they realized where I stood. I was 100% for their kid, and I wasn't going to soup anything up. So anyway, what I'm trying to say, and just, it's nice to hear that and remember that because other people need to hear that too. All right. So not just me, everyone needs to hear some good stuff. Suspense is killing me. Nice to see you. Very memorable screen name. He says, what's up, Jim? If you had athletes that may only be coached for one season or all three, 1 year or all four, how would you recommend adjusting programming? This wide range makes continuity challenging. All right, so I'm kind of confused about what you're asking me, but you have to understand that everyone that's involved in our program, we all have the basic same structure during the off season, right? Squat, bench, trap bar, we have assistants, and then we run, jump, all that other stuff. So that's going to be the same thing. The only difference is if you only got a kid for one season, so 3 months, you're going to have to, and they're coached during the season, I assume, you're going to have to be very smart about the loading. They're basically learning at that point. You don't want them to get too sore. So yes, you're going to have to adjust that. And it's just like anything, suspense is killing me. The basic framework can be worked with just about anyone. You just have to monitor the loading and the volume, especially of the main lifts and obviously the assistance to a degree. And there's a lot of, if you only have a kid for one season, you have to do a ton of coaching. They don't really get a lot of training in, at least what you and I would consider training, because those are the kind of problem with, training someone brand new, who's not very committed, is you can't turn your back on them and you have to watch them all the time. And then you've got 50 other kids that are getting completely ignored because this kid decides not to show up for the off season. And that kind of drives me nuts. I think it's very selfish, but whatever. That's just me. I guess how you would adjust program, you'd adjust the volume of the exercises, and you'd have to probably adjust, obviously, the loading, which is part of volume. And then you'd have to adjust the assistance, especially if they're just for one season, you'd have to be very smart about the assistants. I wouldn't change very much with the assistants. That way they get sore one time and they don't really get terribly sore after that. So the most important thing, I said this on the forum, and I think the job of what I do, a strength coach, is infinitely easier if you have two things. One, if you have a head coach that's 1000% all in, understands that training is the most important thing. And number two, and that's really not asking much. All he has to do is put his foot down and say, listen, you either show up or you don't. Super simple. Have high standards, have expectations, and expect the kids to meet them, because kids want high expectations. They want high standards. Number two, if your kids are willing to work fairly hard. If you have that, everything else is pretty easy. Programming, as long as you have some decent common sense and you don't doing stupid stuff, it's very, very easy. Kids will have success, but you need those two things, or you're going to be constantly fighting an uphill battle. So Hulk Smash says, I know you don't talk a lot about diet and nutrition. That's because I'm not terribly learned, but you are correct. Would you talk about how your eating has changed over the years and what your diet looks like now? Well, being heavily involved in sports my entire life, and not just football, I played a shit ton of sports. I'd played at least 3 sports, if not 5, for a long time. And I was very active. I could just eat whatever I wanted. Even through college, I could just kind of eat whatever I wanted. I obviously didn't try to eat bad, but it wasn't a big deal because you're running and moving all the time. And then you have that huge background of running and lifting and playing sports all the time. Your body just has a set point, and it's very hard to gain weight. I'm sure everyone here who has played sports for a long time understands, especially if you have a high level of GPP. Man, it's hard. So I was able to get away with a lot. But now, I'm older, and I've noticed, obviously what I eat really affects me. I mean, back in the day, I could eat McDonald's 10 minutes before the game. I wouldn't even notice a difference. But now that's not so much the case. And obviously I'm not as active. I don't play any sports. All I have is, maybe training, in little 30-minute, 40-minute pockets or so throughout the day. So anyway, the point being is what I eat now is very, very simple. I try to keep my protein sources to 3 things. I have whole eggs. I have boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and steak or some kind of red meat. I always try to have those at every meal, and I don't eat a ton of it really. I just eat enough, and then I always try to have some kind of carb source that agrees with my stomach. I don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables I don't just eat fruits and vegetables willy-nilly because they make my stomach feel like shit sometimes. And if I do that, then I don't feel good and I don't perform well. Again, it's not like the old days when I could, eat whatever I wanted and my stomach was fine. So the number one thing is I try to have some kind of protein source, and I try to have some easy carb source that makes me feel okay. For the most part, that is usually rice or sourdough toast. And sometimes I'm okay with potatoes. I just try not to eat too much because I feel all bulky and I don't like that feeling anymore. But I guess what I'm trying to say is get your protein in, and then whatever else you eat on that, make sure it agrees with your body, not just because someone tells you have to eat broccoli. I'm not eating broccoli. All right. I don't want to be farting all the time. That's not a symbol of health, being gassy. I'm sorry. You're just not going to, or, you feel like your stomach's this big and you got to shit, 15-foot cable. All right. That's not, to me, that's not terribly healthy. So, and the other thing, and I'm also, again, I'm 50 years old. I just turned 50. Thank you very much. And I don't want to weigh, 250 pounds anymore. It's not important to me. So I'm trying to eat a lot less, and I try to be smart about it. If you do have a sweet tooth, I like to have sweets every so often. And so what I do is I just bought M&Ms. I just take a, handful of 5 or 10 M&Ms. I eat them and I'm done and I'm fine. I have that ability. I don't need to overeat. Not everyone's like that. So if I need something, I make something very small, or just get like the Halloween fun size candy bars and just have one. So it kind of takes care of that. Obviously, that's not right for everyone. I try not to do that very often, but that way, if I do have something, I want that, I can eat it. Listen, I just try to eat like an adult, and I eat very boring, but I also try to eat foods that I enjoy that don't, make me feel like Duke. So The problem is Vincent and Matt were here for four days, and I gained a boatload of weight. I gained 8 pounds. I've already taken off 5 in a day, but oh my God, did we eat? At least for me, we ate Popeyes. Oh, Popeyes is so good. So anyway, all right. Sub-Zero says, hey, Jim, John Hack attributed his early success to following 5-1 boring but big. That's pretty impressive. Have you ever talked to him about it? I have not. To be completely honest, I'm kind of on my own island here. The only, I guess, person I talk to in the industry, I guess you'd say, is maybe Dave. And I don't talk to Dave all the time. I don't know. Vincent and Matt, I guess, are still technically part of it, but they're kind of outliers like me. So I don't really talk to anyone about anything, to be completely honest. That's nothing against anyone. I just kind of very private person, or at least I try to be. So I'm not out there on social media, making connections. I just try to do a good job of who I am and what I am. So, but that is very cool. I know that guy is stronger than shit, and it's very cool that he has some kind of background with that. I'm super pumped up, that it helped him out, I guess is the best way to say. So that's really cool. By the way, we had 4 kids do a pull-up, 1 or more pull-ups with 88 pounds on Wednesday. That's awesome. I just remembered that. I'm just super pumped that they had that kind of success. Tom Bryant writes, hey, Jim, what watch are you wearing? Oh, boy. Oh, my God. I don't know, man. I wish I knew. I knew I had the box around here. I think it's called a Pathfinder, maybe. I don't know who makes it. I did about 4 minutes of research and bought it on Amazon. As soon as this thing goes out, I'll buy something else. I'm a huge fan of wearing a watch. I use it constantly, all day, all the time, especially when I'm coaching. We time everything when I coach. Obviously, if I'm doing some kind of training, that's what keeps me honest with the rest periods. I'm probably one of the, I don't know how many people wear watches anymore, but as soon as I started coaching, I started wearing it because I was a pain in the ass taking out my phone and doing all that. I just hated doing that. I think it's, I don't know, just pain in the ass, I think. So just having it on my wrist makes a difference. And it does like a million things, but I don't really use, I don't know. There's a million features on here I don't use, and I don't really care. I just needed something with a big enough face that I can read since I have to wear glasses. Look. All right. Bill Coyne says the Bob Seger workout. I'm not sure what that means, but hell yeah. Bob Seger. The silver. Didn't he do the Coors Light commercials? I don't know, something like that. All right, here we go. Joe Stanton says, what would you think about using Hatfield squats as the main squat movement in a 5-3-1 program? I assume, Joe, you're talking about the safety squat bar holding the handles. I think it's an awesome idea. I think for a lot of people, you get great squat technique, and obviously you have a built-in spotter too. So yeah, I think it's 100%, man. I think that exercise for many people is an awesome squat exercise, and I've said this a million times. As long as you're healthy and you can load the squat, I don't care if it's a front squat, back squat, box squat, safety bar squat, any of those things, I'm totally down with it as long as you're loading, belt squat, stuff like that. So, Joe, you have my approval. I don't know if you really care, but you got it, man. So, yeah, plus you can load that thing, man. The other thing, Joe, I don't know if you have it, just make sure you got a good safety squat bar. It makes a difference. Mailman James says, good morning. Good. I thought you were doing good mornings. Okay, you got 3's week on deadlift plus boring but big, getting after it. Enjoy the boring but big deadlifts. They're absolutely miserable. So, the other thing I would do if I was doing boring but big with the deadlifts, I'd do them all double overhand. Stress that grip, man. Stress that grip. Daniel McKenzie says, how do you cope with losing time with your oldest son when co-parenting is really difficult? What's been the most helpful thing for you? Mason and I have had long talks about this. The couple things is I'm not going to say the number, but I went into massive debt flying out to Texas, massive. And I knew what I was doing. And I'm not telling everyone to, congratulate me or make me some kind of victim or martyr, but I went into massive debt. And if I told you, you guys would probably freak the fuck out. So, but I did that because I knew, I'm going to get all emotional here. I knew this time wasn't going to come again. So I did everything I could. I flew out there all the time. We got a hotel room, rental car. This is well before Lyft or anything like that. Or what's the other one? Uber. So I spent a lot of time with him. The number two thing is piggybacking that. I didn't try and make our visits like crazy. Like, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. I just wanted to spend time with him. So in general, whatever he wanted to do, as long as it was like, not crazy or anything, we just did. And so a lot of time was just spent playing Legos. We played a lot of video games. We played with Army guys. We did a ton of shit. And every time I go out there, I would carry, my regular bag. Then I have a suitcase full of PlayStation 3, all the games, and I'd have 3 massive giant bags of Legos. And so, I checked one bag and I, brought one with me. That way, we had all kinds of stuff to play with. So the thing is, just make sure you're spending some kind of time. And when you do, make sure it's worth it. Don't just watch, be on your phone or anything like that. Doesn't mean you can't watch TV or anything like that. But as long as you guys are together, it's fine. And that's the most important thing, is whatever you're doing, just spend time with them, be there. I remember someone was texting me over and over. I was so mad because I didn't want to be looking at my phone. I was so angry at this person. Kept on texting me. I told him, like, dude, you got to fucking stop. I'm with my son. So you don't think that you got to make every visit like an adventure. Just be with them. That's my best advice. And do what you can. I'm not telling you go into massive debt. But to me, it was worth it. I'd rather go into debt with that than, buying a new car or anything like that. So, and the other thing is, Mason and I know I'm going to get off this because we want to talk about training, but Mason and I have talked about this, and, he's brought it up, and I said, listen, man, it may not seem like much when we were doing it, but we have some of the fucking funniest memories just hanging out in a hotel room playing Nerf guns. And believe it or not, you can turn a lot of the furniture over to build forts and stuff. So those are our memories. And I'm telling you, they're some of the best memories. Just like when Mason and I do challenges, they're absolutely, some of them are, especially one we did was super horrible. But it was one of the most memorable things I've ever done. So, we always talk about it. So unfortunately for Mason, the poor guy's I got about 10 different challenges I want to do with him. So he's got those to look forward to. He goes on vacation and ends up getting sore, really sore. All right, here we go. Nick Place says, what are your thoughts about CrossFit style WODs with light loads for conditioning on non-lifting days in 5-3-1? I think you're better off, and I wrote about this in one of the books, I don't remember which one. You're better off piggybacking an actual workout with that, and there's easy ways to do it. You can see it in the book. I just think for the most part, I think your recovery is going to be compromised. So do your main lift, do all the stuff you need to do, and then use the WODs as a way of getting in lighter volume and some of your assistance and stuff like that. So, and there's easy ways to do that, super easy ways. And it's actually ends up being smart programming instead of just throwing shit on the wall, which I cannot stand. All right. Emil says, good morning, Jim. What are good walrus exercises for the posterior chain with minimal equipment? So obviously you have, you can use band good mornings. You can use kettlebell swings. We use the devil's press, or it looks like a 2-arm snatch with dumbbells. You can do single arm snatches, kettlebell snatches. Let's see, you can use I guess you can do a dumbbell straight leg deadlift. We've done those as part of our training at London for a little bit. Back raises. You can do reverse hypers, or you can just do revert, with a machine. If you don't have that, you can just lay on an elevated surface. That's what we do here on our kitchen island. We call them island hypers, or my wife does, and I've adopted that name. So, but you're going to need some kind of equipment in general to do the posterior chain stuff, unless you do, what do you call those? We used to call them Russian leg curls, the Nordic leg curl. Apparently it got moved from Russia to the Nordic countries. It just went a little bit west to get renamed. But a lot of people can't do those. And I think for me, I always got a lot of soreness on the backside of my knees when I did those quite a bit. So I would not always recommend those at a high volume. And he says, could you please remind Juliet to check emails? Okay. I will make sure. We've been crazy busy. Oh my God, things are nuts here. Not just, with my buddies out there. There's a lot of shit going on here. We're doing, anyway. Okay, Bill Coyne, that's Bob Seeger was running against the wind in reference to our kids running in the hugely windy area here in London. Who designs the shirts on your website? We've hired a couple different designers over the years. Obviously we own the rights to them. And then we've had people that I work with. There's a whole bunch of different people. And I've come up with a few designs, especially early on. But we've had a couple different people. So I'm not terribly, as you can tell, because I wear a lot of plain shirts, I'm not a very good designer. I can coach, but I can't design t-shirts. So, but yeah, we've hired a couple companies and used a couple different people. So Turner Johnson says, with no walls to throw a med ball at, what type of throws do you suggest? Are slam variations a form of throws? I guess kind of. I don't have a wall to throw, and I just throw it outside. So my suggestion is I do 3. I do a chest pass, a full body chest pass, which I use my legs, obviously. I do an overhead throw, both legs together, right leg forward and left leg forward. So I vary that. And then I use the most known, I guess, is the backwards throw. You've seen shot putters do that as a type of warm up. That's where I learned that. So those 3 things I usually do. And I just go outside and I just, throw it, pick it up, throw it again, pick it up, throw it again, and come back. And when the most important thing is when I start doing the throws, they are super lazy. And then I build up as I warm up. That just might be because I'm old. But the key is make sure you're warmed up and then be explosive. And I think the med ball I use, is 12 pounds. So it's not terribly heavy. By the way, I do way more throws than I do jumps right now. And that's, I don't know. I just like to do them now. So, and before I get out there and do my stupid training, I just do that. And it's a good overall, get your body ready. I love doing those things. Bob Yu says, good morning from the Chicago area. That's where I'm from. I just started training my wife. How long should I have her doing a certain weight for main lifts? Progressing 5 pounds is a large percentage of her training max. It just depends, I guess. It's hard to say. This is how I worked with James, but I'm always very sub-max with the weights, and we basically maintain a certain weight until I feel like he's absolutely mastered it and he can do it all the time. And then we bumped up a little bit. Now I would bump up, work him up, and as soon as his form broke down, we go back down and we just use that weight. So I'd usually back off about probably 20% or 10%. It's just hard to say. But the most important thing is not about being super aggressive with the loading, Bob, is making sure they're able to do it with the correct weight. So that weight might fluctuate occasionally. So one day, I'll just give you an example. Maybe she's deadlifting and maybe 65 pounds looks really good, 75, 85. whatever, and maybe 95 it breaks down and go back down to, let's say, 85 and it's perfect. Well, sometimes if you go back down and 85 still looks bad, so we just back off. So the main thing is you're just getting good quality reps done correctly. So I'm never very aggressive in the loading. I have said this a million times. Most of James's stuff, he trains with my wife now, was very light. And we tested his deadlift out one time at it's a long story, it doesn't matter where, at a Savage run, and he trap bar deadlifted 200 pounds and we hadn't gone anything. We'd done like one set over 135. The point being is good reps done consistently build up over time. You don't have to always just jump up 5 pounds, especially with people who are inexperienced. Their technique will fluctuate quite a bit depending on a lot of things. Let's just be honest. So, Bob, the best way to say this, I don't have a certain number, but you're better off staying lighter for a longer period of time and not trying to always add weight all the time. It's just not going to happen. So if you're going to use just a general number, I say 4 to 6 weeks. And I know everyone, no, you're going to die. No, you're not. We're in this for the long haul. I'm not here to give you a 6-week plan. We're here to kick ass for 60 years. Joe says, thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. Mailman Joe says he will now use an overhand grip for boring but big sets. That's awesome. And then the other thing is, if you can, one of the things I wish I learned how to do the hook grip. That's the first thing when I first started training, we always use the hook grip for our hang cleans and stuff like that. And I really wish I would have stuck with the hook grip. And so if you can, you might have to drop your boring but big sets to sets of 5, but that would be a good time to learn the hook grip and, kind of get your hands ready for that. So I would highly recommend that. All right. Richard Stewart says, hi, Joe. Oh, go boy. Richard. I didn't know I was Joe. I know one of your methods for strength training is to athlete the lower and bodybuild the upper. Would you recommend the same approach for soccer players? Yeah. I mean, listen, the kids I train, so we're going to talk about this a little bit. Obviously, soccer players don't need to have the upper body mass and everything as football players, but soccer players are not built like football players. So right at the, you're going to have a totally different athlete. Just like if you took the average soccer athlete, who's built to play soccer, no matter how many drugs you give him, he's not going to turn into Ronnie Coleman. He just doesn't have the genetics. And it takes a long time to get a kid who's, just too jacked. I love that. You don't want him getting too big. Well, he's not. So yes, I would do that. Now here's the kicker, man. Vincent and Rhodes came out to training when I was, training the kids. When they're out here, they came with me to London. And the one thing both of them pointed out that I didn't realize, Matt says, for all the different kids that you have and the different body types, he said, all your kids have giant legs. Now, here's the thing. We don't do any bodybuilding or, we very rarely do, crazy volume for our legs, but all our kids have big legs. And I didn't notice until they said that. I watched our kids run, and obviously it's not everyone, but we got some legs on our kids. I mean, some fucking legs, big old quads and butts. So don't think that if you athlete the lower that you're going to be skimpy. It's just not the thing. And obviously genetics come into play there too. So yes, Richard, to answer your question, 1,000%. All right. They're not going to look like bodybuilders. All right. They're going to look like athletes. Brandon says, any suggestions for glute ham raises when you don't have a machine? I work out at a Ma and Pa gym. Again, you can do the Nordic leg curls. I would do, if you have access to a leg curl machine, there's nothing wrong with the leg curl machine at all. You still need some hamstring work. You can do band leg curls. You can do back raises. Huge fan of back raises. Most gyms have a just standard back raise, 45 or flat. You don't have to load it right away. Just do the exercise and make sure you're using your hamstrings to lift, which you will know. The other thing is obviously kettlebell swings. I never really felt them in my hamstring, to be honest, but some people swear by them. The devil's press that we do, it looks like a two-handed. You have a dumbbell in each hand between your legs. Call them devil's press. I'm not sure that's exactly what it is. Always smokes the hamstrings too. So, but Brandon, if you work at a mom and pop gym, there's probably 100% chance you got a leg curl. Fucking bomb the leg curl. Just, do 2 to 5 sets, and I think you'll be fine. Leg curls have gotten kind of a bad rap. You know how I do my leg curls? I put on ankle weights, and I just lean against something. I do standing leg curls, and I do 100 per leg. There you go. Eric Lewin says, hey, I follow up on the best boys question about training for new dads. All right, here's a suggestion. If possible, invest in home equipment. It's infinitely easier to go downstairs or into the garage than it is to leave the house. That's a great suggestion, Eric. And I'll be completely honest. I'm so used to my home gym. I kind of thought like an idiot that it was that he had access to that. And that's just really stupid on me. So yes, listen, and if you have to go to a gym, block out the time. Don't waste any time. You'd rather go a little earlier than later in the day. And again, follow the training for busy and inconsistent men, because it will get you in and out, allows you to do less or more based on your readiness and what you have time for too. So that's a great idea. If you just get yourself a power rack, a good power rack with, some kind of bench, 0 to 90 or flat, a barbell, and some quality weights. You don't have to spend $1 million on the plates either, but obviously you want something that's, listen, your 45-pound plate should weigh 45 pounds. And just buy some, you don't have to buy top end equipment, but buying some high quality is going to pay off in the long run. You won't, as I always say, buy nice, don't buy twice. Don't buy nice. Okay. Do any new kids, here's Ello. Thank you, Ello, for the contribution. Do any new kids on your team ever give you attitude, or are they always respectful? How would you deal with getting disrespected if that ever happens? I'm sure, 99.9999. The kids are solid. I had a couple kids here and there, but the thing is, they never ever last. The kids, probably a handful of times, were kind of disrespectful, and they weed themselves out. I just kind of ignore it, if I'm going to be honest, because I know exactly what's going to happen, because the head coach, again, how important is the head coach? Listen, that's the most important thing. He will demand respect, or he just, booted the kid out. We had a kid I'm not going to say who or anything, but in an off season, just act like a total asshole. He was booted within 10 minutes of showing up. So, the other thing, Ella, and this probably sounds like a dickhead thing. Listen, I'm not going to waste my time or my energy on that. I just ignore it and ignore him, because if he's not willing to put in the time, and I got, it's been a crazy off season. We probably had close to 60 kids, and I'm not going to waste all my time on one when 59 kids who are working their absolute asses off deserve attention and admiration and respect. So I just don't worry about it. And the good thing is, in football especially, the way Kyle Cutler runs the team, it's not going to last. It will not last. Rico Santana says, what was the most intense training chapter in your life? I guess it depends how you say intense. The last 2 years of powerlifting for me were very intense, but it wasn't crazy like training for football was. Training for football, you're running, you're doing all this other stuff, so it's a different kind of intense. Obviously, I wasn't handling the same amount of weights. One of the things, when I played high school football, most kids played both ways. And so you're always balancing gaining weight and all this other stuff with, you got to be able to run, and you got to be run all game. And I just remember how, I always played both ways. And I remember feeling like knowing how I felt, and I try to replicate that a lot when I was running. So maybe not the best thing. So I think both of those ideas or both of those chapters in my life were super intense. I can't say that, routinely taking out a boatload of weight on the monolift is incredibly intense. You can't have a bad day when you're, squatting 500 in blue bands for 10 doubles. Like, you can't. You get killed or seriously injured. So, but both, and the other thing is, man, when I was in high school, all I wanted to do was play college football. I put so much pressure on myself training, and that made it very intense too, incredibly intense. I was, petrified that I would never be able to play college football. And I figured if I just worked hard enough, I'd outwork everyone. So that was also intense because I felt like my future was on the line. Right. So anyway, that's a good question. Totally different worlds too. Woo. BK says, hey, thanks, Jim, for all your great info. Would you put together safety squat bar spots in conventional deadlifts in the same workout for building legs? Oh, safety bar, I assume squats and conventional deadlifts in the same workout for building legs. Probably not. I'd probably separate those, but it also depends on the loading too. I don't know how strong you are. So obviously the stronger you are, you can only do a little bit. And I know some people can do 3 lifts in a day and all working up heavy. I couldn't do it. Most of the guys I train with couldn't do it. So I would probably separate those things, but that's just me. Yeah. Safety bar squats are awesome too. Woo. The other thing too is you safety squat bar, your back's going to get fatigued, and then you go into conventional deadlifts. That's not always the best thing in the world. So what could mimic the reverse hyper if I don't have that piece of equipment? I don't know what you mean by mimic. I guess just the muscles. Any back raise, you can obviously do the island hypers. You don't need a reverse hyper. You can always wear, what I do is I wear the ankle weights too. Band good mornings, pull throughs, kettlebell swings, stuff like that. I'm a huge fan of the back raise. It absolutely made my back and hamstring super strong, especially the 45. Once I was able to use some weight on the 45-degree back raise, that really changed my strength in my back and my hamstrings. But maybe that's different for you, but that's what I would probably recommend. Emil says, thank you very much. Okay. I wanted just walrus outside for summer. Excited to try it out. Yep. I'm looking forward to summer, although that heat absolutely kills me. At what intensity or how heavy should assistance work be done? Well, it depends, I guess, on the movement, right? It depends on the person, but generally we try to get 3 to 5 sets, and I want most of those sets all out. And again, this is for younger lifters, between 0 and 5 years, 6 years of training. So when you say intensity, like, you're not maxing out at it, right? So your intensity is going to be lower, but your reps and effort will probably be higher. So listen, people are terrified of working hard about, their CNS, or maybe I'm doing too much. Man, just fucking lift hard, be consistent, and make sure you're eating. All right. People are too scared sometimes to train hard. I don't understand it. It doesn't mean you have to train for 2 hours, but I always tell the kids, you got to see Jesus at least 3 times a day. So, and the honest to God thing is, even when they train hard, they're not training as hard as they think, because they don't know how to train hard. That's the beauty of a younger lifter. Inter and intramuscular coordination, people, go a long way. All right, here we go. So Bastian, at the end of the day, do shit to failure sometimes. If you're doing 5 sets, 2 should be almost to failure or near failure, somewhere in there. AB says, hey, man, can you name a couple of death metal bands you'd recommend for someone not familiar with the genre, looking to add some tunes for my training playlist? I guess I don't know anything that's terribly recent, but I think you can never go wrong with Cannibal Corpse, especially the Chris Barnes era. I'm a huge fan of that. The Bleeding, I think, is one of the most accessible death metal albums. The other one would be Morbid Angel's Covenant, one of the best-selling of all time. And Deicide's Legion. So those 3 albums, I think, would be suit you very well, and they're very easy to digest. All 3 of those albums are legendary in my least in my mind, they are. And I'm sure there's a ton of new stuff. But to me, that's what death metal should sound like. So Richard Stewart says, sorry, Jim, not Joe. That's all right. I knew what you meant there, buddy. Chuck Stevens says, hey, I just wanted to pop in and say good morning. You're doing good work. I appreciate that. I'm trying my ass off. I don't know. You know, one of the weird things is I get asked and I see a lot of people talking about their legacy. My legacy is my kids. I have no illusions that I'm going to last past my death. So, and I'm okay with that. I think people get weird about that. I can't think about I thought about this, how many billions of people that have existed on Earth that never had their picture taken. All right. Think about that. Totally forgotten, and some very important people too that were just forgotten. So my legacy is my kids. That's it. Just want them to, at least dad wasn't a total idiot. So. All right, Rico Santana says, what's some good alternatives for the Olympic lifts? Well, the number one thing is making sure you understand pushing fast and pushing hard in normal lifts. So, bench, squat, trap bar, deadlift, stuff like that. So learn how to be explosive, under control, push as fast as you can. I think Westside has proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt. And, according to the experts 30 years ago, we could never win a single football game without the power clean, because that was all football coaches did. And somehow we've managed to go to the playoffs every year, and we went to the Final Four last year, not doing a single power clean. Crazy. The other thing that I think are super, and we do this all the time, we do a lot of different kinds of jumps, regular box jumps, and then we also do some plyometric stuff. We do a depth jump, bounds and stuff like that. We will add them in later on in the year, but we're always doing some kind of jumping year round. I should say that year round. But in the off season, in the in season, we do box jumping in place of trap bar if the kids are a little bit tired. So again, explosive, fast concentrics on the main lifts, always under control. And then any kind of jumping, I think you'll be fine. And obviously med ball throws. Huge fan of that. I wish we could do a ton of that at London. I don't think it would make a huge difference in our wins and losses, but I think it'd be a nice, fun thing to do, except we got to have a place to store a shitload of med balls of a million different weights. It's just not in the cards right now. Here we go. Brandon Fink says, in regards to mimicking reverse hypers, the back extension laying the opposite way with pad adjusted high, and then you use bands around my ankles. There you go. Super easy. Yeah, it just might be kind of a pain to set up in the beginning to know exactly where everything needs to be. But yeah, it shouldn't take you terribly long. Levi Taylor says, what type of programming would you run if you were still powerlifting and trying to total elite? I don't know. No. Probably lift 3 or 4 days a week. I don't know. I would keep singles in. I wouldn't max out, but I would keep singles in for the majority of the programming, meaning maybe once or twice every 4 weeks. It wouldn't be a max, though. It'd be a single. And I would try, Levi, if I was honest, I'd try to gain as much muscle on my upper body as possible. I mean, retarded amount of muscle. And I would keep the conditioning in, probably walking or the bike, weight vest walking or the bike to keep that up. I don't know. It wouldn't be terribly complicated. I just try to get strong as hell on all the lifts, and that's about it. And I would just probably use rep maxes because that's what I love to do. Absolutely love doing that. And I'd learn how to push fast and hard every single rep of every one of those PR sets. So even if you're doing like a set of 8, every rep would be dialed in. It wouldn't just be, I got to get 8. It would be 8 fast, awesome reps. Even if you're pushing slower and you're grinding, you should always be pushing as hard and fast as you can on those sets. Always. That's how I was taught. And I think that really carried over to powerlifting. So when I went to powerlifting, doing the dynamic method or max effort stuff was already ingrained because I've already learned how to push fast. Again, you got to build muscle, Levi. I can see way too many people trying to carve jello. And I think that's a ridiculous notion. What are your thoughts on using belt squats as a joker set at the end of the workout to blow out the quad muscles? Well, that's certainly not a joker set. A joker set would generally be heavier. I would say it's a Widowmaker, and that's fine. Yes, but not as a joker, as a Widowmaker. Yep. Nothing wrong with that. Mailman Jones says, I do have a horizontal back extension I can use. Perhaps I'm overthinking it. Always enjoyed the explosiveness of the reverse hyper, though. Listen, if my back was healthy, like I was just normal dude the back extension in 45 would be 1,000% the best thing I could do to strengthen my back and hamstrings. I would never use those exercises to train explosiveness. I do that to train the muscles of the backside. So maybe that's different for you. All that is just building a plate of armor on my hamstrings, glutes, and back. That's all that is. Just building as much muscle and as much strength back there, not trying to be explosive. I'll be explosive in my squats, deadlifts, benches, jumps, stuff like that. The assistance, man, I'm just building muscle and building armor. So again, that might not be what you're looking for, but for me, that's the most important thing, is building armor. In fact, here it is. I've officially, thanks to Vincent DeCenzo, I've just started the Walrus book. And that's the preliminary title of the Walrus book, is Building Armor. So there you go. Vincent, he guilted me into it. You got to do it, brother. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process, so... Okay, Coco says, I am catching up with your old lives. What? Oh, live streams. Vincent mentioned your 50% rule for conditioning. Could you tell us what that is? The 50% rule is, let's say you can, because I don't think conditioning needs to be balls out all the time. It sounds good. It sounds like, and I did this too, like, hey, you're going to get in better shape. Every conditioning session should be insane. It has been my experience that while it sounds good, looks good on paper, it's a horrible way to train your conditioning. So the 50% rule is just basically, it's not exactly 50%, but for example, let's say you do a prowler workout and it takes you 20 minutes to do, or 10 minutes to do an X workout, whatever that is. My goal is to consistently do that workout in about 13 to 15 minutes or so. So you're still getting quality conditioning, but you're not actually smoking yourself and screwing up your recovery and feeling like death. If you keep most of your conditioning within those parameters, you're going to get in way better shape. I have seen it happen a million times. I watch our kids. We train. Our conditioning is not that hard. Our kids are always in good shape. When I do that with Walrus stuff and Prowler stuff, I'm always, when I go and push something really hard or test, 1,000% I'm kicking ass, 1,000%, because I'm never run down. I always have a base and I always feel good. So 50% is just a joke number. I just made that number up, but it seems to work within those parameters. So in short, if you can push or do a conditioning thing in X amount of time, balls out, when you do that as part of your training, we extend we don't try to break that record or maintain that. We do it in more time and just let our body catch up with the easier style of conditioning. You will feel better. Mailman Jones says, which grip will blast the forearms and grip better, double over or hook? The double over, 1,000%. 1,000%. So Richard Stewart says, hey, Jim, do you still use the Cryptea program? No. You talk about with our kids? No. We don't have enough room, enough time, enough dumbbells. And it just becomes too much of a pain in the ass. We have way too many kids in the weight room to do that. So we do all of our main lifts on a clock. Everyone's together. It just works out better that way. And if you leave the kids up to their own devices when training, a 25-minute workout will take 70 minutes for some kids because they fart around. So I monitor every single minute of the day of training. We get it in and out much quicker. Everything is a million times more efficient when you do it like that. I still used and have used the Cryptea style programming for people I coach one-on-one, but that's a completely different animal than coaching one coach with 60 kids. So That's why we changed. It's more efficient, and we end up getting stronger because we're not farting around either, and our kids recover way better. But again, that's just me. I don't have, I'm not training 3 kids at a time or 5 kids or 10 kids. I got 60, and it's a pain in the ass sometimes. Things change, man. Everyone thinks that this workout is the best. Well, that's great, but you got 60 fucking kids. It doesn't work like that. That's a pipe dream. People live in a weird world. So here we go. Keith Bott says, hi again from Gray, Scotland. My wife got me an axle bar for Christmas, and I've been doing cleans with it using 5 Pro. Woo! I do 1 main lift a day with Waller style assistance, full body. That is awesome. I don't know if that bar rotates. I doubt it does, right? Most axle bars don't rotate, but good for you, man. The other thing, I know I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but do some of your pressing with that too, some curls, stuff like that, some shrugs. Build that grip. You don't have to do it all the time for every lift, but that's an awesome bar. I have a fat bar here. I think it's like 75 pounds. I don't know if it rotates though. I don't know. But man, what would be a great thing to do is do your FSL work, double overhand with the fat bar. You may have to adjust the weights, but that's awesome. Would you ever train RDLs for pure strength with the 5-3-1 template, or would they always be an accessory exercise? I don't know what pure strength means. What is pure strength? I don't know what pure strength means. So I'm not sure what that means, but we generally use it as an assistance exercise, and assistance exercises still build strength. They build a tremendous amount of strength and size. So are you saying, would I use the RDL for a main lift? Oh, aiming for a 1 rep max weight? No way. I'm sure some people could. I've trained, thousands of people, and very few, I think, would do it right. So, yeah, assistance most of the time. Michael Hint says, hey, Jim, my grip is smoked between lifting and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. What would you recommend to keep rocking but getting through that pain? Oh, man. Well, if I were you, buddy, I would use straps on your deadlifts and anything that you do, like rows, if your grip is just too tired. And even if you're doing any kind of pulling motion, that might be the cure-all for that. The other thing that you might do is back off on your pulling stuff. And you might even have to back off some of your pressing stuff to just give your grip a little chance to feel better. That doesn't mean you have to do nothing, but maybe just do your upper body work will be a little bit lower volume overall, and just let your body recover. So, or you can kind of go through it and just see if your grip is going to get any better, or at least adapt. But my first thing would be use straps on the deadlift and any kind of like dumbbell row, or if you're doing any of that stuff, and just see how that goes, for the time being. So, and learn how to use the straps too. So the straps are taking the weight and not your hands. Because I think a lot of people still use straps and they still grip the bar super tight. When I deadlift with straps, I just take a false grip. I don't even really hang on to the bar. And I think that for you might be a super smart thing. Obviously, you're squeezing the bar, but it's not the same. So Harrison says, hey, Jim, any adjustments you would make if I really want to focus on awesome squat Widowmaker PRs? I've got stupid goals, currently doing simple OG triumvirate template. Thanks. Boy, I don't know. Honestly, man, if I were you, I would probably lower my training max a little bit and really push that PR set as hard as you can. And then obviously doing, I wouldn't always do Widowmakers though. I would just raise up my rep strength on the squat using a lower training max and learning how to push that. That's what I would probably do. So yeah, and then the other thing is I would train the absolute dog shit out of my abs and low back to the point where they're absolutely armor plated so that you're able to maintain the focus and you're not doing this crap that I see so many people do. It drives me nuts. Upper back too. So I would lower my training max, make sure that you're pushing those final sets on your PR sets super heavy, making sure you understand the mindset. I think that's super important. Learning how to break down a set of 12, for example, in your mind, so it gets you through certain reps. I always take the first 5 out of the way first, and then I do 2 to 3, and then 2 to 3, and then singles, singles, singles. That's how I play it in my head. So you have to learn the mentality of pushing a PR set. It's a learned talent or skill, I should say. Trust me, I've done a million PR sets. So that's what I would probably do. Just make sure your abs and low back are up to snuff too. Keith Bott says, as I said before, I'm 61 and need 2 days between workouts. I do the cleans between bench and squat day. How would you add a press after the cleans? 1 clean and press, or at the end of the 5 cleans? I would probably do it at the end of the 5 cleans, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think your cleans will probably get compromised with the extra press in between. That's just me. Brandon says 531 logo, black metal style, just food for thought. All right. Not a lot of black metal fans out there. I'm one of the few, it feels like. No, a lot of metal fans in the lifting community, just not black metal and extreme metal. Very few. So Keith Bott says, I need to listen again. I was typing that last question and missed what you said about the FSL sets. I don't know what you're asking there, Keith. All right. Thanks for all this, Jim. Could have done with this 30 years ago. Have a good weekend. Well, yeah. Listen, I tell the kids all the time, the coaching that you get from myself and Kyle, me and Kyle have discussed this, is we are when we coach, we try to keep the things that we loved and thought were useful, and we try to discard all the bullshit and all the stupid stuff that doesn't do anything. I call them honoring ghosts. You should never honor something that's been long dead and just do it because everyone else did it. I think that's a horrible idea. So I'm trying to coach and do the things that I think were super positive, and I think that help, and getting rid of the dumb things that just are pointless. And I mean, every year I'm finding stuff that I shouldn't probably do this. Or the other thing is, a lot of these things in training athletes that everyone kind of sticks to, just in general, I just don't think they apply to the athletes that I have. I'll be completely honest. And I've said this before, but I had this massive realization a couple of years ago, but it's really taken hold, is every person I coach is an average dude trying to get awesome. I am not an NFL player. I'm not Myles Garrett. Our kids are average kids who need to get better. They don't train like NFL people or what everyone thinks is in vogue for athletes, because they're not fucking NFL athletes. They're not freaks of nature. They're just regular kids who need to build muscle, who need to learn how to jump, who need to get a little stronger. Completely different world from anything that you see at Ohio State or the Cleveland Browns or anyone else. So when I had that realization, a lot of things opened up, and about the stuff that I don't have to do anymore or don't need to do, that have been sacred cows in the athlete training community. Man, screw those guys. All right. Let the other teams pretend a 5'8", 120-pound guy needs to train like Myles Garrett. Our kids need to get stronger. They need to look like they lift weights. They need to be able to run. All right. Not just 10-yard sprints. All right. And I had this realization too. Our linemen look like, some of them are 170 pounds, 180 pounds. What, they have to train like a 6'5", 300-pound guy? Man, screw that. I want to take advantage of these kids' weight. They can run, they can lift. We're going to get them as big as possible, but they don't they don't need to run past 15 yards. Well, that's because this person over here is 300 pounds. My kids are 170, 180, 200 pounds. All right. There's running backs in the NFL that are way bigger than our linemen. So they don't need to train like the NFL linemen. All right. Plus, they're like 15 years old. Jeez Louise. Oh, my God. Dude, I guess the best way to say it is you kind of see the matrix. You got to see reality, and it's not what everyone's been telling you about either. All right. Whew, it's 11:04. I'm ready to shut this down. I don't even know what I'm going to do the rest of the day, but it's work. So, Seth Patton says, hey, Jim, I said hey to you when you were getting out of your car at Mad Cow last week. I hope your food was good. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I remember you. That's awesome. Mad Cow, for everyone, is not the stupid guy from the radio stations it's a restaurant here in town that I eat at occasionally. So, yeah, the food was good. The food is always good. The most important thing with food is if I don't have to make it, I'm very happy. Daniel McKenzie says, hey, Jim, mind if I slide into your DMs for some co-parenting wisdom? Sounds like we're living the same movie, and I dig your take on things. Sure, if you got a question about parenting and stuff like that, I'll do my best. But hey, listen to me. I'm not one of those influencers. Listen, I try to do the best job I can. I am not fucking perfect. I'm sure I've done some really stupid, shitty things. I know I have. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life either. I can't stand that stuff. Anyway, some of these people on social media. Oh my God. Their shit doesn't stink. Anyway, let me tell you guys, every morning I take my dump. It stinks. Whew. God damn. All right. Anyway, I appreciate everyone. I thank you for asking questions or for just listening. I totally, this is what makes this thing tick. I love doing this. It's one of the highlights of my day, or my week, I should say. Fridays are awesome because it's also Prowler Day for the kids, and I love that they love to hate the Prowler. As always, do something, if possible, do something stupid this weekend, conditioning-wise, something that will train your body and your mind, something that pushes you past your comfort level. It will be some of the most horrible things you do and the most memorable, and it will teach you a lot about yourself. So one of the things I came up with, I turned 50 this year. One of my things I'm thinking about doing is riding 50 miles on the Airdyne, which is going to be miserable. I don't even know how I'm going to do that. So I haven't committed to it, but that's one thing. If someone wants to try something dumb, I can't imagine what my legs are going to feel like after that. So I love all you guys. I really appreciate everyone. Thank you, Peter. You didn't have to do that, but thank you very much, man. So to all you guys, thanks. Have a great weekend. Spend time with your friends, family, and don't forget to spend some time with yourself. Bye-bye.